Imagine turning on your computer like normal, but instead of your desktop, Windows says, your PCR did not start correctly. Now you're staring at a blue repair screen, wondering if one wrong click could make everything worse. But here's the part most people don't realize. This usually doesn't mean your PC is dead. It means Windows got interrupted before it could fully wake up. Most people don't think about their computer starting up. You press the power button, the logo appears, the little loading circle spins, and a few seconds later, you're at your desktop. That's what is supposed to happen. But when Windows says your PC did not start correctly, it feels like something much bigger has gone wrong. Because this screen appears before you can open anything, before you can check your files, before you can search for help, before you can even know what broke. And that's what makes it so scary. But the important thing to understand is this. Your computer is not just turning on like a light switch. It is going through a chain of steps. First, the hardware wakes up. Then the system looks for the drive. Then Windows starts loading core files. Then it checks drivers, settings, updates, startup processes, and all the pieces it needs before it can safely open your desktop. So when Windows says it did not start correctly, it usually means something in that chain failed, froze, got interrupted, or didn't finish properly. It is not always a dead computer. Sometimes it is something simple like the computer shut down during an update. Sometimes Windows tried to install something, restart, and continue, but something didn't line up properly when it came back on. Sometimes a driver is causing problems. Sometimes a file Windows needs at startup is damaged. Sometimes the computer lost power at the worst possible moment. And sometimes Windows just fails once, restarts, and then works normally again. That's why one of the first options is often just restart. And that sounds almost too simple. But it makes sense. If Windows got stuck halfway through starting, a restart gives it one more clean chance to go through the startup chain properly. The problem is, the screen doesn't explain that in a normal human way. It just gives you a blue screen with buttons like restart and advanced options. And to a normal person, advanced options sounds like a trapdoor. You start thinking, am I about to delete my files? Am I about to make this worse? Should I touch anything? That fear is part of the problem with modern computers. They are designed to be easy when everything works. But the moment something breaks, they suddenly start talking like you're an IT technician. The scary part is not just that the PC won't start. The scary part is that you are forced to make a decision before you understand what happened. That's why this error matters. It turns a normal everyday machine into a black box. You don't know if it's a small glitch, a failed update, a broken file, or something more serious. But Windows does give you a few recovery paths. Startup repair is basically Windows trying to inspect the startup process and fix whatever is stopping it from loading normally. System restore is different. That tries to roll the system back to an earlier working state before a change may have caused the problem. Safe mode is another option. That starts Windows with only the basic pieces loaded, so if a driver, app, or update is causing trouble, you might still be able to get in and undo it. And this is the deeper point. A computer can look completely broken from the outside, even when the real problem is just one bad part of the startup chain. That is why this screen can feel more dramatic than it actually is. Windows is not always saying your computer is dead. Sometimes it is saying, I tried to start normally, something went wrong, and now I need a safer way back in. But The user experience is still terrible because the average person doesn't want to diagnose startup files, drivers, updates, boot loops, or recovery menus. They just want their computer to open, and that's why everyday computer problems are so frustrating. When a phone app crashes, you close it. When a website freezes, you refresh it. But when the whole PC fails before the desktop appears, and it feels like you've lost control of the entire machine. And that's what makes the message so powerful. Your PC did not start correctly. It sounds simple, but it creates instant panic. Because all your files, work, photos, passwords, documents, and projects are sitting behind a screen you can't get past. So the real lesson is not just restart your computer. The real lesson is that modern computers depend on a fragile startup sequence most people never see, until the day it breaks. And when it breaks, Windows gives you recovery tools, but not much emotional reassurance. That's why the first thing to remember is don't panic. A failed startup does not automatically mean your computer is gone. It means Windows failed to complete the path from power button to desktop. And the recovery screen is Windows trying to find another way through. So the next time you see that blue screen, it is scary, but it is not always the end. Sometimes your PC isn't dead. Sometimes Windows just tripped before it could fully wake up.